Now that I think about it, no shit, I was struggling with English. I was dealing with Japanese and Tagalog at the same time too. Language ごちゃミックス人生皆さんこんにちはマイクです。Welcome back guys, it's Mike, Language Mix Life, and today's gonna be an English episode. 今日はもう英語で完全に英語の回なんですけど、そうですね、英語の勉強してる方にもこうついていけるような内容を目指してるので、ぜひ英語の勉強をしてる場合は、参考にしてもらえればなと思います。今日のトピックは、人生を大きく変えた5つの、出来事、イベント、分岐点についてお話しします。それを英語で、英語で話す理由は大きくはないんですけど、一つは英語の方が感情に出やすいっていうのが正直な感想であるので、英語にしようかなと思ったのはそれが一番大きいかなっていう理由があります。それ以外は特にはないんですけど。So today's topic is the 5 crucial events that changed my life. Okay, so I know some of you here are going to be like, hey, what do you mean changed your life? You're only 23. Yeah, I know. I understand. But we all, when we have a deep thought into our past, no matter how old we are, even if you're only 18, even if you're only 13 or 10, you still have at least one crucial event that brought you here, brought you where you are. And for me, I'm going to be talking about 5 crucial events. And these have shaped me, whether good or bad. They've shaped me into myself right now. So whatever it is, they've all taught me a lesson, a crucial lesson. So without further ado, let's go into the intro. Let's go. Okay, to begin with, I think I'm going to go by chronological order. So first lesson. Back in 2007, that's the year I moved from the Philippines to Japan. My mom is Filipino and my dad's Japanese. I was born in the Philippines, and just before my 6th birthday, I moved to Japan. And as much as I want to tell you guys in detail, I was so confused back then. And I don't blame my parents for that, because no matter how hard they try to explain to me, I doubt that I'd actually understand what they're trying to do. Right? Explaining to a 5-year-old, oh, you're gonna move to a new country, even though it's my dad's country, you're gonna move to a new country and you're gonna adapt to their culture, you're gonna make new friends, you're gonna make new communities. You're not gonna explain that to a 5-year-old. So I totally understand that I was confused, and yeah, I don't have precise memories of it, but all I remember was the chaos inside my brain. Confused. I thought that one day I was going to be back in the Philippines, because I have totally zero memories of going on a plane. 1 second I was in the Philippines, I slept. The next moment I was in Japan. I was sleeping in a futon in an unfamiliar room. And what's frightening is my mom wasn't there, my dad wasn't there, my dad was off to work, my mom was downstairs. But I didn't even know I was sleeping on the 2nd floor, right? So, total chaos. I was super confused. I think I peed my pants. I had no idea where I was. I had no idea what the hell was going on. So it really took me, I'm dead serious, it took me, I swear, a solid 2 years to finally understand that I was living in Japan. Like I was going to school here. I was going to school in Japan from first grade, but it just didn't feel real. I thought that one day I was going to be back in the Philippines, which I was, but only for spring breaks, winter breaks, and from there, I do have memories of going on the plane. But that event of moving from the Philippines to Japan, if, here's the thing, if I don't choose my words right, people are gonna misunderstand me. But if I'm gonna be totally honest with you guys, I'm gonna back it up, of course, but it seemed like there was a big hole in my chest. It just didn't feel right. I was crying every single night. I was crying under my blanket every single night, and I was just hoping for a day that I'll be back in the Philippines, which never happened. But here's the thing. It's not that I didn't like the Japanese culture, but rather the big part that I appreciated about the Filipino culture didn't exist in the Japanese culture. Well, it was 180 degrees different to the Japanese culture I adapted to. If you know Filipino culture, it's family first. It's family first. And my home back in the Philippines, we all live together. My mom has 4 other siblings. 2 of her siblings are in the Philippines. The other 2 are in Canada. But even with the other 2 in the Philippines, we were still a big family. With my cousins. In total, we were in the same block. In the same block, we were always together with a family of over 10 people, right? And if you know Filipino culture, you know New Year's, Christmas, big big parties, big events, there's going to be hundreds of people in the neighbor. And we all call each other family. And I grew up thinking, or not even thinking, because we're unconscious when we're little. I grew up with the thought that that's the standard worldwide. I don't even know the world back then, but I thought I took it for granted. And then I come to Japan, where everything is low key. Everything is nonchalant, low key, mind your own business, nothing fancy. I I was I missed something. I missed family. I missed all the gatherings. I missed all the parties. That just felt more totally warmer than Japan when I moved. But as time passed, Japan kind of overtook, and I appreciate more of the Japanese culture. And now I'm totally, even if not, maybe I'm a little more used to the Japanese culture now. But as a little kid, that was such a big event that turned the tables for me. So that's lesson 1. Lesson 2. This is back in 3rd grade. This is really depressing. Thinking about it now from my perspective, specifically from my perspective at this time of my life, or this point of my life, this is super sad to think about. A traumatic experience I went through back in 3rd grade. So for those who watched the first few episodes, where I kind of gave a brief introduction of myself, about myself. Because I came to Japan at the age of 5 or 6, I spoke zero Japanese at first. I understood a little bit because my dad spoke to me in Japanese, but speaking wise, writing wise, I was totally dog shit in Japanese. So I, my parents were, especially my dad. My dad was worried that I might get bullied if I went to a Japanese public school, which was the first plan. It was the initial plan to put me in a Japanese public school, or like 150 meters away from our house, but no, that's not what they did. They put me in an international school. So I was lucky enough because I just had to use more English than Tagalog. But then as I grew up, I did pick up on my Japanese, and I also went to cram schools. So that's where I totally caught up with my Japanese. But until then, so English was my primary language. Third grade was the hardest part of my life when it comes to linguistics or language. Back then, I spoke English and Tagalog only, right? But then I was learning Japanese as well. And I think by the end of second grade, I was already in the native Japanese class. So I was still picking up. Well, I was still catching up, but I kind of picked up with the basics of Japanese already. And because I took linguistics in college too, I took linguistics class in college too. I can kind of back it up with knowledge now. But there was a study about multilingual students having a harder time when reading or something, or reading comprehension or something. And when we talked about this in class, I was mind blown. Not mind blown because it was a new knowledge, but because it reminded me of this traumatizing experience I went through in third grade. So in third grade, I was learning Japanese while I was still practicing my English and Tagalog, right? So I was doing that in 3 languages. Well, I wasn't doing reading and writing with Tagalog, but I still spoke it with my family. Well, my mom only in Japan, but I spoke it over the phone with my grandma, my auntie, my uncles. So I was still using it. So I was using Tagalog. I was using and practicing English at school and at home. And then I was our home language is Japanese. So I speak Japanese at home. And I was still practicing Japanese because at the time, Japanese was my third language. So I'm doing this simultaneously. 3 languages as a third grader. Back then, you don't think about the logical stuff. You don't think about the hard stuff. You don't think, because we're unconsciously learning 3 languages. But my third grade teacher embarrassed me so hard in front of my parents. It was so traumatizing. It still comes through my head every once in a while. And I'm like 23 right now. I have no insecurities with my English, but in terms of this as an event, it does come at me every once in a while. She called my parents, telling them that my reading comprehension was not so good. She never tried to ask me why. All she said, she blamed it on me playing too much Mathletics. And if y'all homies know, Mathletics is this math game on the internet where it's like there's a lot of games in it, but like the main one we were doing back then was you press start at the same time as your friend, and you would go against each other online. And it's basically doing multiplication, addition, subtraction, division, the basic four on a computer screen. And it's like whoever does it faster gets more points type thing. And I was into it. I think that was the peak of me being into math in my life. And I used to call my friends on the phone with our what you call those house phones. I'd call my friend and like, alrighty, 3, 2, 1, press start. And then we'd go against each other playing athletics. But yeah, I was definitely into that. But that was not the reason I was struggling with English. Now that I think about it, no shit, I was struggling with English. I was dealing with Japanese and Tagalog at the same time too. That should be enough for an adult to understand that, damn, this kid might be totally overwhelmed. No shit. She was not very patient with my reading comprehension. Because of that, I never liked reading in English. She demolished every inch of my confidence in English reading comprehension. So, other than when we were forced to read something for a school project, I just never had a time where I actually enjoyed reading in English. In fact, my Japanese took over, and literacy-wise, I enjoyed more Japanese works than English works, I think, from middle school or maybe high school. I just never enjoyed reading in English. And that's definitely that incident in third grade was definitely a big part of it. But, because I also took education in college, that was just like, she was a role model for me of who not to be. Like we had to write a lot of teaching philosophy essays, and she was the first person I thought of who I didn't want to be as a teacher. No matter how bad I might be at teaching, the last thing I want to do is make my students lose their confidence. I always want my students to feel confident about themselves. So this incident was a big life lesson for me. Okay. Lesson 3 is for a lot of people. I think this one is for a lot of people. A lot of people would relate to me. It's when I lost my best friend, my family. Her name is Chappie. She was a beagle. I think she was my very first pet. My first and only pet, actually. I really don't want to dive deep into this because it's been 3 years since she passed away, but I still can't get over it. When her photo comes up on my phone or on our family digital album, oh man, it hits me in the guts. She came to our family after the 3/11, the tsunami, the great earthquake. It wasn't too much of a surprise because I was actually the one who was asking for her when we saw her in the pet shop. Yeah, I just kept telling my dad, Dad, can we take her home? But my mom hates dogs, or she just doesn't do well with dogs. So my dad couldn't, even though my dad really wanted to take her home too. So, I kind of had to give up. And it's one day, I was stuck in cram school. I was just not having it. I usually finish in about an hour, but that day I was stuck in there for 3 hours. I just couldn't focus at all. I was doing the same question over and over and over and over. I didn't even get in trouble. My teacher felt bad. She was like, "What's happening with you? Like, you're never like this. You're always the quickest one to leave here." I was like, "I don't know. I'm just not having it today." And I cried my way home. It's about a 10-minute walk home from my cram school. I was crying my ass. And I go home, and I don't know why, but it felt, I don't know how to describe this. It felt loud, even though it wasn't like loud, like something you can hear. Like it felt like something was going on in the living room. I was done crying by then. And I go into the living room, and my dad's chasing something. And I'm like, "What the hell are you doing, Dad?" And she was there. Chappie was there. She was so little. She would fit into an adult's hand. Like that's how little she was. She was only 2 months old. She was such a pain in the ass. If you know beagles, if you've ever been with a beagle before, you know they're a pain in the ass. They are so cute, but they are such a pain in the ass. They make you chase them everywhere. They're always hungry. They're always energetic. Yeah, I basically spent my time from grade 3 to grade 12 with her. I was primarily the one taking her on a walk. In the morning and in the evening, I was the one taking her on a walk. So I think I'm the one who spent the most time with her. And then here comes university. I moved to Hawaii. And this was my freshman year, sophomore year. It's the summer break right after sophomore year. She was sick. She had a tumor in her brain. And God, it was so hard to watch because you can see her physically getting weaker and weaker day by day. As I said, beagles eat a lot. They're always hungry. But no, she's not eating. Well, she can't. And, we take her to the hospital, I think bi-weekly almost. Sometimes multiple days a week. And I still remember to this day, that day, it was just me and my dad with the vet. And the vet told us that there's only two options. So it was either we were going to do that MRI scan thing of like her whole body, her entire body, not just her head, or we keep treating her with medicines. But of course, we wanted to get her checked. We wanted to precisely understand what's wrong, or if it was, because we weren't sure if it was a tumor, because like we can't really check unless we actually do a scan on her. But we couldn't, because to do a full body scan, they have to what's zanshimasu in English? General anesthesia. She had to get a general anesthesia, and that has a risk of her just not waking up again. He literally told us that there's a case in the past where they did a general anesthesia to a poodle, and she just never woke up again. And of course, when we heard that, we were like, oh, we can't do that. So what we had to do is we had to assume that she had a tumor and just keep treating her with whatever they had for a tumor. So we did that for a couple of months, and during my summer break, my sophomore year summer break, she left this world. And there's so much takeaways from this incident, this event, this point of time. But what hit me really hard at the time is when we went to this place where they do ceremonies for pets when they pass away. I went there with my dad, and we were doing all this paperwork and stuff. And when It was our very last time seeing her before, they burnt her. I spoke zero words with my dad. We were just, looking at her. We were touching her. We were saying thank you. We were saying sorry. And oh my god, me and my dad were we're just tearing apart. We're tearing apart. We're crying. We're tearing up. My dad is he's a man of steel. I've never seen him cry. He was crying, and that broke my heart too. On our way home in the car, we were talking about memories and all that, and my dad was like, "Do you know why I decided to take her home, even though your mom didn't like the idea of getting her?" And I was like, I thought we just kind of, we just kind of fell in love with her. And then my dad was telling me, yeah, of course, that's part of it. That's a huge part of it. But he told me, like, another big reason why he was so motivated to get her, or a pet, was to teach me and my brother a lesson to not take life for granted. Even if it's not like for ourselves, but that life is really precious, and to really not take it for granted. And it just hit me so hard in the gut, because I definitely did take it for granted. Of course, when we're with them, when we're with our loved ones, we don't think about when they're gone. That's a big turning point of my life. This is such a tough story to talk about. Let's move on. ここでちょっとお知らせです。質問や相談、話してほしいトピックがあれば、概要欄から質問フォーム、またはインスタ X の DM、あとはメールでもたくさんの質問相談お待ちしております。Without further ado, let's go back. My fourth lesson is this one. It's pretty recent. It's studying abroad. So for my viewers who've been here from since day one, you guys know that I went to an international school in Japan from grade 1 to 12. And then after graduating from high school, I decided to study abroad, go to the University of Hawaii at Manoa, and I went there for 4 years. I graduated last year. There were big ups and downs during my journey of studying in Hawaii, because, well, it first started with a big down, because if you guys know, I am class of 2020, which means we are class of COVID-19. Unfortunately, our last 2 months of high school were canceled, or were turned into online classes. Classes were canceled, senior trips were canceled by our airlines, by the government. I say 60-70% of our class couldn't even move out of Japan, even though we were supposed to be. Even though we were studying abroad, a lot of us took semesters or even a whole year or two online classes in Japan before moving to whichever university we were going. But for me, I tried to do the same. I tried to take a gap year because I knew things weren't gonna slow down any soon. But my dad didn't want me to. My dad he forced me to move out of Japan, even during COVID. There were very limited flights, but he sent me off to Hawaii, and I went there literally during the lockdown. Everyone wasn't allowed to go outside. I did my quarantine in the hotel and even in the dorm after I moved in. So rough times. Everything was online. Couldn't make friends. couldn't make communities. All my roommates stayed in their rooms. Hard times. Hard times. I hated my first year in university. I hated it. During that first summer break after college, I thought of asking my dad to move out of Hawaii, to move back to Japan potentially, or to another state. But we decided that I'd try for another year, and if it still wasn't feeling right, I was, gonna find another way. And because I did meet more people in my second year that I thought it was kind of worth staying in Hawaii, I decided to stay. And as the year progressed, I did go through more fun stuff. There were more ups to kind of cover up for the downs, and that's what kept me in Hawaii. And luckily, I was able to successfully graduate. So I love Hawaii. Hawaii's my family. Hawaii's my home. I appreciate my my community in Hawaii, but because it was such a chaotic time that when I moved in, it was just mentally super stressing. It was because, no, here's the thing. Because I speak English, there's no language barrier for me when it comes to studying abroad. It's not to study English for me, right? It's to challenge myself. And it's like I moved out of Japan to get out of my comfort zone, but I thought that was more of like a slow thing that progresses through time. But the moment I stepped out of Japan and got into Hawaii, that was already out of my comfort zone because of the COVID regulations. So I started at such an overwhelming situation that I was doubting myself at first, that I might have made a bad decision. But how should I say this? I don't necessarily like now I can say that it's not really that it turned out to be a good decision. I feel like I can give myself credit to say that I made it into the right decision, if that makes any sense. Like I worked my ass off so that in the end of the day, or like now, I can say that it was the right decision to go to Hawaii. So yeah, it's just all the ups and downs all together. Like looking back at it right now, it's a total positive experience for me. That's lesson 4, studying abroad. Lesson 5. So this is the last one. Lesson 5. This is the most recent. This is only a month ago, but it was a span of 3 months. I got surgery 3 times. I got 3 major surgeries within the span of 3 months. So one pretty big surgery per month for 3 consecutive months. This was the biggest mental challenge I faced my entire life. Well, the first 2 was initially planned. It was supposed to be a 2-step surgery where I had a big birthmark in the back of my neck, and the first surgery was to take it out, and the second step of this second step surgery was to do skin graft to replace the missing skin on the back of my neck. But the first surgery went well. I got to go home in a day, and then it's my second surgery. Skin grafting is not an easy surgery because you stay in the hospital for about a week before they check on it because it's covered up. It's covered up in all these cloths and medical stuff. So we don't move during the week before they open it and see the progress. So I was in the hospital for a week. I was just, watching a lot of K dramas, watching animes. I watched Naruto for the first time there, and then when they had a first look at the skin graft, I just knew by their reactions that it wasn't going super well. So they asked me to stay in the hospital for another week before they had another check on it. And they looked at it and said, yeah, it's not looking very well. So I stayed in the hospital for another few days before I got to go home, knowing that the surgery didn't actually go well. But like, all I can do at this point is pray. That's really all I can do. There's really nothing I can control about this. I can try. I was eating healthy. I tried my best to take important supplements, and so I went to the hospital for, I think, the third time after my second surgery, or like after getting out of the hospital, and we were trying to see if it was going to get better and better over time, but my doctor finally told me that no, you need to get a third surgery. Or you need to get another surgery. That surgery is basically another skin graft. So a general anesthesia again, maybe a 10-day stay in the hospital. I understood it quick. I processed it really quick in my head. But, I couldn't make the decision right away. So I asked my doctor if I could take this home if I could take this home and talk to my family and then decide and tell them what I'm going to do. I get home and then I open the door and go inside my house, and that moment, I don't know why, the processed information finally reached my emotions. So the moment I got home, I felt all the tears coming up. I was like, oh shit, I'm about to cry the shit out of my mind. And I didn't want to do that in front of my parents. I wanted to talk to my parents, but I didn't want them to worry too much. So I opened the door again. I went to the closest, what do you call those? It's like those bridges that help you cross the road instead of actually crossing it. Because, cars pass by a lot there in that area. So there's like a bridge for pedestrians. I don't know how you call those in English, but the hodokyo. Yeah. I went there and I was just watching all these cars pass by. And if you see someone doing that, it'd be like, oh shit, is he fine? He's not thinking about, stupid shit, yeah. But no, I was just going through it. I was trying to let out all the tears so that when I go home, I wouldn't have to deal with it anymore, and I can talk to my parents without crying. But shit, I was standing there for a whole hour, and not a single tear came out for an entire hour. So I gave up. I went home, and I think it was my dad that I first talked to. I think it was already past 6, and my dad was eating dinner, watching TV, and I sit down next to him and I tell him, yeah, unfortunately, I was told that I have to get another surgery. And then as I said that, I couldn't even cry for a damn hour, even though I was listening to like the saddest shit songs, all the saddest songs in my playlist. I was listening to like a mashup of those songs for an entire hour, and I couldn't tear up a single tear. And The second I talk to my dad, he's not even saying a word back to me yet. I'm already tearing up. And because I cried hard so much after saying that, I was told that I have to get another surgery. I couldn't say a single word after that. My tears just took over. My dad, I think, in the most nonchalant way, he told me, well, it's your life, it's your body, you make the decision. I'm not going to tell you what to do. So think about it over the night. And if you don't want to take it, if you don't want to get a surgery, tell them so. That just made me cry even harder because his words were so warm. Yeah, I just nodded and walked straight up to my mom. And my mom first thought I was messing around. I'm usually the clown in our house. I'm always messing around. I'm never serious. I'm so unserious in my house. But so my mom thought I was just fucking around first, but once she noticed that I was actually crying, I think the last time she saw me cry was, I don't know when, high school, middle school. Well, it's a while ago. So she notices me crying, and she's like, "Why? What? It's like, what the hell happened?" And I'm like, trying my best to explain it because even before I started talking, I'm already crying. And you guys, you know how hard it is to talk while crying. I'm out here crying and also trying to explain to my mom what I was told. And my mom happens to say exactly the same thing as my dad, even though she wasn't at the table with us. I went back to the bridge, I was staring at the cars again for like 30 minutes, listening to music, listening to Your Lion April type songs. Man, this was my Rock Lee moment. Rock Lee is my favorite character from Naruto, by the way. So this was my exact Rock Lee moment. I was just like zoned out. It's when Rock Lee was told by Tsunade to not get the surgery, because if he does, he has a 50% chance of dying. That's my Rock Lee moment. That was I was so zoned out. No hopes. Like, I'm usually a positive thinker, but then at the time there was just no way for me to get out of that mind that what if it fails again? What if we do the same surgery and it doesn't work out again? I'm gonna be mentally done by the time. So man, if I had a guy sensei, to tell me, your surgery doesn't work out, you die, I'll die with you. I needed that type of mentor. But unfortunately I didn't. But I ended up getting it actually, though. It worked out. It worked out. I'm still recovering from it, but it worked out. And mentally, when it comes to mental growth, there's nothing that comes on top of this experience. Like, this was the peak of my mental breakdown. I was just like thinking back and forth. Like, I want to get the surgery if it's the quickest way for me to recover without worrying about the bacteria stuff. But then at the same time, what was holding me was that if it fails, because it's basically the same surgery, we can't promise that it's going to work out this time. What if it doesn't for the second time? This isn't free. And mentally, when you start thinking that there's a chance that it's not going to work out, that's the start of things falling apart. And going from there to deciding to get the surgery, that was the biggest comeback moment or comeback that I can think of in my life when it comes to mental strength. And after this surgery, because I went through this rough 3-month span of my life, I'm so much more tougher mentally than I can ever imagine. Even though it wasn't perfect, even though I had to take such a long route to where I wanted to be, the whole process that I went through definitely is what made me stronger. And I think I'm going to carry this for the rest of my life. So I'm not taking this experience for granted. That's for sure. So yeah, that's lesson 5 for me. I hope you guys got to know me a little more, especially for my viewers, my English viewers. Before I end this, for my English viewers, I also, if you're an English speaker and you're trying to learn Japanese, most of my content, well, I'm trying to balance it out as much as possible, but I have a lot of content in Japanese, and I'm also going to do contents in English. So if you're learning Japanese, do use my Japanese content as a sample of, for learning Japanese, because when it comes to learning language, listening is, for me, I think listening is the most important bit. In terms of the starting point, you need to practice by listening. So if you're learning Japanese, please use me. If you have any suggestions for me, any requests for what to talk about, if you have any questions that you want me to answer, please do fill out the question form, or just shoot me a message or like an email. So, and I'll definitely respond. I promise you. And I think that's about it. So, if I also want you guys to share your stories like I did. So if you do have stories you want to share with me, you want to share with other people, please do send me your stories. I'm more than happy to hear about them. 日本語の視聴者の皆さんは、もしこれが少しでも英語の勉強の参考になったらいいなっていう話をしたんですけど、いつも通りね、話してほしいことがあったりとか、答えてほしい相談があったりとか、質問があったりしたら、メールか、DM か、なんか質問箱みたいな、質問フォームみたいなのを作ったんで、どれからでもいいので送ってください。ペンネームと内容をお願いします。で、これからもね、英語のエピソードだったり、日本語のエピソードだったり、もうごっちゃ混ぜで配信していくんですけど、これからも引き続きよろしくお願いします。じゃあ、おやすみ。